Hi, good evening, and welcome back to another DeckTech and gameplay video. And this time I wanted to focus on something a little different, a little newer, using some of the new cards. So, um, right now, I think that Command Villainy, the green black combo, is one of the best combos in the game due to the combination of the ramp with the rare base plus the super laser tech. You have resupply combined with a very good in-game top end of Darth Vader, OB. Um, that sort of deck right now, I feel like, is probably the best position deck in the game. So what we're going to do with this deck is use Krennic to use one of the new cards, Power of the Dark Side, and we're also trying the new Shuttle as well to see if it's worth a slot in some kind of deck. Uh, this deck I think could be very powerful. Um, you'll see in these games ahead that I think that some changes are probably due for this deck. But the main core of what you're trying to do here is using Power of the Dark Side with Takedown, Traitorous, Death Trooper, just the various removal effects, OB, Callus. So you have a lot of ambush in here, you have a lot of removal, and something like that is going to make Power of the Dark Side really be able to perform to its max potential. There are a few cards in here that I don't necessarily think are worth its spot, but I wanted to try something just to see and make sure. I haven't played much with this 6-cost Star Destroyer. Um, I'm kind of mid on it. Like, I think it's okay, but at the same time, it kind of underperforms when you need it most. You really have to be going first or have the initiative to really make it work to its full potential. But when it does work, it's very good, and when you're going second, it's a little awkward. So I don't know if that necessarily should have a spot. Also, surprisingly, I don't know if Count Dooku is really worth a spot. It kind of underperforms in the fact that you know a lot of the main threats you need to be removing have 5 health or more, and he's just a little awkward on your curve. And being a 5/4, he does die to quite a bit as well. Uh, so, like a month ago, Dooku I think was incredible, but now that we're seeing more of the set, I think he's removing threats that maybe aren't that great anymore. So he might be something we need to look at. Maybe replace with Avenger. I think Avenger should probably be in this deck. After playing these games with Zuhair, um, there were several games where I really wish I had the Avenger to close things out. So that's something that I want to be looking at and trying for the future. I also want to go up to 3 Royal Guards. That card overperformed pretty much at every spot. You have quite a few officials in here. Well, I mean not quite a few, but with you Laren plus your leader being officials, it's pretty easy to just have one out for the Royal Guard. Cell Block Guard is also very good. Ultimately, this is kind of a Darth Vader 7-drop deck. There's a lot of really good combos you can do with him. One of the best things you could possibly do is play Vader, uh, use the effect before ambush, get a Death Trooper, and be able to do 2 damage to something and then kill it with Vader. You could also even damage Vader for 2, so he attacks for 6 off of Krennic and kill something that has 6 health. Uh, but he's very good. Vader is one of the best cards in the game, and I think a deck like this is something that can take advantage of it more than most. Other than that, we already know that space is kind of weak for this color combo. You have the 2-drop tie, which is very good. The shuttle was okay. Wasn't thrilled about it. It could probably be something else and be perfectly fine. Uh, the 3-drop green ship is pretty solid as a 3/3 for 3. Uh, the restore is relevant, but you don't have to get that effect for it to still be good. I feel like it's still good as a 3/3 for 3. Uh, Having 3 power in space in a villainy deck is very, very relevant. Uh, like I said, the Star Destroyer was kind of hit or miss, so I would probably edit the space on this deck a bit to play like Avenger instead of the Star Destroyer, and maybe try to find something else like a, I don't know, Tie Advanced maybe. I don't know how many Imperials are in here. Probably not enough to make it worth it. Uh, or maybe just get something else that you can get off of Vader. Maybe even TIE Fighter. Just something to be able to contest the Space Arena earlier. That's probably ideal. So that's the deck. You want to be curving into like a turn 3 ramp into a turn, or a turn 2 ramp effect into a turn 3 uh, leader flip plus like Callus or something like that. And then ultimately you want to be going into Vader and probably Avenger. Like I said, Avenger's not in here right now, but I think I would have won more of these games if I had Avenger. So let's just go ahead and jump into the games here. We played a couple games before this. You can see, let me pause it for a second. I have Krennic red off to the right here. We played a handful of games with Krennic red first, and it was just lacking something. I feel like red villainy is good in theory, but in practice, it just doesn't work the way that I want it to. Uh, Fifth Brother's very good. Seventh Sister is fine. Of course, Force Choke is very good. You can't really use Force Throw in this deck, which is a little unfortunate. But it's just missing something. So, but anyway, let's go into the games with the green version. I might pause a few times just to talk about some plays, but I had already mulliganed this hand, so I can't mulligan again. But this is a hand that I would mulligan. But we have to resource both our shuttles because it's the worst card in our hand. And our curve is fine here, but him playing a Greedo makes it a little awkward. Like, he can trade with our short trooper if he wants, but it's just, it doesn't feel good. So we might have to go to space here pretty quickly in order to not let him get value off of this Greedo. So he has the initiative. Figuring out what the resource here. So depending on what he does, we might play the Royal Guard and we might play the ship. So, but seeing that he just played a 2/3 in space, we're definitely just playing the ship here and being very happy with this trade. Krennic is a deck that loves to make favorable trades and leave units on board with damage because they get pumped. So we're figuring out what the resource here. So we did draw into the Super Laser Tech. So if we wanted to, we could send it into the Greedo here. We could also take down something like that, for example, but he does use the ECL here. So we're happy to make this trade with the Super Laser Tech because we can get out Krennic now, knowing that he can't ramp into Boba Fett. So he pings our trooper with Greedo's effect, which we're fine with. We're going to take 2, which we can heal back with Krennic. He's taken 3 from this due to Krennic's effect. And we're in pretty good shape now. We can play Yularen to heal back 1 and then play Krennic. So we're pretty far ahead, pretty far ahead on board. He can't play Boba this turn. Having a Krennic on board and a takedown in hand makes a Boba Fett turn a lot worse. He has the initiative, so we have to be somewhat careful here. I feel like I probably should have resourced the Star Destroyer and kept the cell block guard, just because the cell block guard can make his Boba Fett attacks kind of awkward. So I think that might have been a little bit of a misplay, but I don't want to just give up space completely, because the Star Destroyer can pretty much negate his entire space. But him having initiative, we'll see what he does. He's just going to freeze the Krennic, uh, which means I can now play the OB and just clear his space arena. So there is an argument there that I could have played. So here, let me pause it for a second. So something worth mentioning is that I could have just played the Star Destroyer there to advance my board. That blocks his space for the turn, and save the OB for next turn to be able to take out his Boba Fett with something. But I wanted to use the opportunity there to just clear a space arena, save 5 damage, and use the Star Destroyer in a future turn to give, like, maybe Krennic Sentinel. So that was my thinking there. So back to the game. Knowing that he already used 2 resources here, there's no fear of Bosk. We just send Yularen in and just basically let him do his worst, because he can't deploy Boba Fett, and I think he tries to, and then I remind him that the Shore Trooper is 7 attack now. It's 2 plus 2 from OB, plus 2 from his ability, and then 7, and then 1 more from Krennic for 7. So what he was doing there is he was passing back to me over and over again, and I thought about just taking the initiative rather than attacking for 7 so he can't get Boba out. But ultimately I felt that 7 damage was worth letting him bring out Boba and have like a turn basically with it. So I figured that whatever he did here really wasn't that bad. Which, I was right. I mean, I don't feel like Bosk plus Boba Fett is really that scary right now, being that he's at 14 damage. So I think Power of the Dark Side here is pretty good. I could use Takedown and theoretically Power of the Dark Side to do like some pretty good things, but I also have Vader, so there's a lot of things that I can do here. I could also just send the Shore Trooper for 5 and kill Boba Fett, or I can send it to his base. But ultimately, I decided to just kill his Boba Fett. I feel like I can win the game with what I have in my hand. I think he sends Bosk into base here. Yeah. So there's an argument that he could have just killed Krennic there, but then he would have been open to whatever I had in my hand. But naturally, I take this opportunity to kill Bosk, and he doesn't really have any follow-up or his own Vader, so he just scoops him up. So if one player has Vader and the other one doesn't, you get into a really lopsided game state. So he didn't have Vader. He saw that the writing was on the wall there. He had no board, and then our takedown plus Power of the Dark Side was going to take that game away. So you could see how the Krennic deck can snowball. Once you get ahead, it's really hard to lose the game. It's just you have to get to a point where you can get ahead. And hands like this are a little awkward because it's hard to get ahead when your first unit is in space. I probably should have mulliganed this hand, but I really don't like mulliganing hands where you have a turn 2 ramp effect, especially when you can ramp into something like Vader. But if I draw poorly over the next few turns, my Krennic turn, which is turn 3, is going to be very, very awkward. Let me just skip ahead here. I think he might be grabbing a drink. Okay, so he drew his hand. He's going to resource. He gets to go first this game, so we get to see where he goes. But no matter what he does, turn one, we're still playing this, Inferno tie. No reason not to. No matter what he does. We really need to set up our draw for next turn just to make sure that we don't brick on turn 3. I think he might be trying to figure out which arena he wants to go to here. Boba Fett doesn't have very many options early game to go to space, so usually what happens turn 1 for Boba Fett is they play either a Greedo or a probe droid or a crafty smuggler into the ground arena to kind of set up a big turn 3, which usually is Boba Fett into quite a few things. So being able to slow him down early is ideal. Let me just get forward here. I'm not sure what he's doing here. It might be, like I said, might be grabbing a drink. Okay, there we go. So he played Probe Droid, and let me go back a little bit. Just to see my hand, and I play the Inferno tie to see Cell Block Guard and a Shuttle. I'm perfectly happy to keep the Cell Block Guard. The Shuttle isn't really going to be doing much for us. But this isn't the start that we really wanted here. I really want a Super Laser Tech right now. It's really unfortunate that I don't have it. Because what this draw does here is if I play the... so I have a couple options here, right? So we can resupply and ramp. We can play Power of the Dark Side, which probably isn't the best. Or we can play the Royal Guard. So it's worth noting here that playing the Guard means that he could use the ECL to ramp a Super Laser Tech. So we don't want to give him anything in the ground arena for him to be able to ramp, because we have ramp and hopefully he doesn't. So we go with the resupply. Yep, and he's stuck with Greedo. So we're looking pretty good for next turn, but we have to be careful here because Power of the Dark Side is a lot weaker now. While he has this board in the ground arena. So I really should resource that, but I think I ultimately resource the Starship here. But we really should be resourcing the... Okay, there we go, yeah. That was the right call. That card is very good, but right here it is definitely lacking. So I have a couple options here. I could play the Royal Guard and then give it to Fender when Krennic comes out. Or I can play the Starship and try to race him, which probably is not the best idea because there's really no way to ever race Boba Fett. But now that both of his units are tapped, we could play Krennic. So we have a couple options. This game can be really hard sometimes. This is a turn where, let's pause it for a second here. So this is a turn where I have several different choices, right? I could send Krennic into his probe droid, which boosts Krennic up to a 3 power, but also means that it's susceptible to his Greedo and 3-drop Boba, and also dies to his leader Boba. Or I can play the Royal Guard here, which sets up for next turn. I could also play the Starship and, again, threaten space. So now that I have time to dissect this, I'm not sure what I did, and we'll see in a second, but I think what I should do looking at this is play the Guard and send Krennic into base, heal 2, and kind of establish something for next turn. Um, you know, a secondary play could be to use the ECL to ambush the guard and take out, say, like the probe droid, and that leaves a guard with Sentinel next turn. That is a uh, a 4 attack with 1 health left. So he'd probably have to send Greedo into it. Um, you know, I think that's probably the best play, honestly, using the ECL here. But I think, let's see what happens. So I do play the guard. I think ambushing it probably would have been for the best there. Yeah, so I made like 70% of what I feel like is the best play. But I think I could have played that turn a little bit better. So we draw a Callus here, which is pretty good. So, okay, let me just talk about this for just a second. So, cards like Agent Callus and Traitorous are fine cards, but this is why I don't like Callus, because he's only a 4/4. And right now, playing this Callus would not be good. Like, sure, I could kill Greedo and draw a card, but then Greedo can kill him. I can't kill Boba Fett with it. It's very awkward in the cards like Bosk and Boba Fett Leader. You know, I know it's easy to say that because Boba Fett plays a lot of, like, you know, 5 health, 4 attack guys. But if Boba Fett is the most played deck, then by proxy, Callus just loses a lot of value. I also think Callus is very bad against Leia because if you know he can't kill Leia Leader, and anything that he does kill is kind of your entire turn, and then Leia just floods the board, and you're just not doing anything. So while Callus isn't a bad card on paper, in practice he never does what you want him to do. Like he's totally fine, very very reasonable, but never outstanding. And I think like a month or two ago that was totally different. So going into this turn here, I think he has initiative. See what he does. So the guard has Sentinel. So whatever he does, he has to deal with the guard first. Like an attack by Greedo is probably greedy on his part, but if it hits, he's a genius. If it doesn't, then he's pretty far behind. But he goes with the safer play with Bosk. Um, so now with Krennic, I don't want to attack with him because the Boba Fett can just take him out for free. So I just ultimately have to go with Callus, and I think I have to kill Greedo here just to draw a card. Um, yep, okay, so he hits with the Greedo, which is really unfortunate. If he doesn't hit with Greedo there, then that Callus is uh, going to be pretty strong, uh, kind of, but he does hit with Greedo, and now like our entire turn basically feels wasted. Um, you know, he can use Boba ability now, so he can waylay something if he needs to. He can shoot first here. You know, he has 100 different options. Whereas our only option here is basically like kill Bosk. Maybe we can attack for 2 or 3 rather. We can't kill uh, either Boba Fett here. So I think ultimately, like attacking in space is probably the play. It's just I'm so behind if he has shoot first here. So I think this game kind of maybe comes down to the turn before when I didn't ambush the guard. I feel like ambushing there might have been the best play and in retrospect, but now I'm just trying to figure out how to get out of this mess. I have two Vaders in hand, which go a long way in, you know, kind of cleaning up, because Vader, if Vader can hit a Death Trooper off of his effect, I can kill both Bosk and the 3-drop Boba Fett. So with that knowledge alone, it's worth saying that I can potentially just attack base here. There's just no good attacks. So I'd hit him for 3 and heal 2, which kind of lets him get his pick of what he wants to do here. So he hits me for 4, readies 2, hit him for 2, and now it's just basically a race, which obviously I can't win. So he takes out Krennic with the 3-drop Boba Fett. I have to take initiative, and he just plays a spacer. Alright, so this turn's pretty easy. I only have one play. It's just play Vader. And I'm going to use the effect first, which you should always do in this deck, to try to find a Death Trooper. If I get a Death Trooper here, I could also kill a Boba Fett leader, but I think ultimately here the best play is to Death Trooper the Bosk and kill the 3-drop Boba Fett. Yeah, which puts Vader at 3, and so Boba Fett can take him out this way. Okay, there's an OB, so he can do 6, so he can't quite kill everything. So this might be a small misplay by him, because he puts, well, I mean, it's not necessarily a misplay, but he does make my Inferno for a 3 attack with this, which means it can trade with Spacer. Um, yeah, he should be at 12 here, which I think I fix. Yeah, but he realizes that this trades, so I think he goes at base instead. Yeah. So I take 6 from the OB attack. So I'm not as bad off as I thought I'd be at this point, but his Boba Fett still being a 4/7 with no damage on it is just not ideal. So now I don't have a lot of different plays here. I really don't want to be going first with this hand, because there's nothing I could really do that's relevant. The only play I really have, I think, is play Vader. I'm checking to see how many Death Troopers I've been through, and I realize that it's just been 1. So I have like 30 cards left in my deck with 2 Death Troopers. So, you know, I have a pretty good chance of finding one off Vader here. So that's ultimately what I decided to do, is just play the odds. And, you know, if I find a Death Trooper here, I can kill his Boba Fett and not be too bad off. So I did find it. There's Death Trooper. So we can Death Trooper his Boba Fett, kill it with Vader. And if he doesn't have another OB or a Vader of his own, we can actually kind of steal this game, and something that we were probably pretty far out of due to an early misplay. At least what I think is a misplay on our part. If he has a surprise strike, that's kind of awkward for us too, but he does have the Vader, which is not exactly what we want to see here. Let's see what he gets. So now he can kill our Vader, which puts 6 on his. We would need to find our last Death Trooper to kind of climb out of this. We have Dooku as well, which can take out his Vader. The cell block guard is a little awkward. So his Vader should have 6, but 5 and 6 is the same thing. It doesn't really matter. So now I realize that I can either attack for 3, I can take out his ship, but I think I need to take initiative here and be able to deal with his board before I take a ton of damage. So yeah, I have to take out his thing and look at our top 2 cards. So Power of the Dark Side's pretty good here. If I have initiative, I think I keep it ultimately, but it's just a little awkward. Traitorous is pretty good here too to take his cell block guard, but not having the the initiative, it's just not as good. So I'm just trying to figure out what the resource. I don't think it matters that much, but because I'm just going to take 5 to the face immediately, which is not what I wanted to happen. So we can OB here on a 4 power Death Trooper. So the OB would be for 6, which does take out both of his units. And now we have Power of the Dark Side as well for whatever he plays. So that's great for us here. We just take that out immediately. So I mean, this could be worse. Like, as long as I can keep taking out whatever he plays, as long as he doesn't play multiple cards in one turn, we actually aren't that bad off here. So we hit him for 4, or 6 rather, to go to 18. And we're a little short of killing him here. We're going to need to 4 with the trooper, which he takes. So our options are basically just take it back. that saved him a lot of damage, but at the same time, it didn't really advance his board much because we just traded 3 resources for 5, which I'm fine with. We kind of have to use takedown on this, or else we just die to basically shoot first or surprise strike. You learn here is going to heal 1, and if we can keep playing green units, we can keep healing. But unfortunately, I think we kind of have to resource this super laser tech just so we have enough to play the Dooku plus the starship. So Vader here, he very smartly takes out the Yularen here. If he would have taken out Death Trooper, that would have let us play Dooku. Oh no, he does take that out. Okay. So I think he probably should have taken out Yularen. So now I could play Dooku to take out Vader and still play the Viper to heal a life. So, but ultimately, I am seeing the issue here in that Dooku is super awkward in this deck because you can't ambush him with ECL, and he's only going to kill one thing. So no matter what here, I don't think there's anything that I could do to take out both of his units. I can only attack for 2 with Yularen. I could heal 1 off of a starship to go to 20, but if he has surprise strike, we lose with the 3-drop Boba Fett attack plus surprise strike. But we take that chance. The only card that we lose to is surprise strike here. So he has waylay, like that's totally fine. Like I don't care that much. We're just gonna play the ship here, and again, so yeah, this is true too. Here, let me think for a second. So this is actually a pretty good point for me. Is that he's pretty low on resources now after playing the Vader plus Waylay. We were able to deal with the Vader, leaving just his Boba Fett. So we had the option there to either advance our board and attack, putting him to 20, setting up lethal next turn, but that means that we were dead to a surprise strike, which I feel like is probably pretty safely in his hand because he's had like one or two cards for most of this game. So I have to assume his last card in hand was an event. Um, so by taking the turn, I'm able to start my turn off by playing takedown on his Boba Fett, which means he has to either flood the board, which means we can just play Dooku to kill something, or play some other large threat and hope that it's enough to kill me. So I decided to take the turn there, and obviously we're going to have to start our turn off with takedown here. So I think I start with Dooku, realizing that I can't kill him, and I'm like, well, that's not great. Which again is why Dooku is super awkward. So we just start with takedown. That's a pretty prime takedown target there. He plays Bosk, which is pretty unfortunate for us because we want to be gaining life with Yularen here. Which means now we have to just play Power of the Dark Side. He has another Boba Fett, which again just kind of puts us right back into position where we're dead to a surprise strike. So uh, I have to play Yularen here to heal one, so we also don't die to shoot first. But we take initiative trying to draw something to kill Boba Fett, which we didn't because Boba Fett, or because the Shore Trooper can only attack for 4. Yularen can ambush for 2. Dooku can't kill Boba Fett. There's just nothing that we can really do here. So our best play is to just, probably play the Yularen to heal one, and just kind of deal with it. And naturally I think he plays surprise strike here. It just doesn't matter. Oh, okay, yeah, no, he has OB, which is more or less the same thing. Now it's a 5 attack. I can't heal. I can't Dooku it. Can't Short Trooper it. Can't do anything. And I believe that's just going to be it for this game. So going into next game, our hand is not good, so we're going to mulligan. You pretty much, so the mulligan condition for this deck is basically ramp. You really, really, really desperately want to ramp with this deck because your late game in these aspects is so incredibly powerful. Once you add the Avenger in, I think it makes the ramp like especially important, and it also makes late game resupplies, not just automatic resources, because you really want to ramp into the Avenger. So this hand is somewhat better. There's no ramp, but we do have Yularen into another green unit, just in case he has a faster start. We do have to resource an OB here, which is awkward. We could have also resourced the Traitorous, but I feel like the Traitorous might serve us some good if he has space units or some sort of Sentinel again, like the cell block guard. So I go Yularen, he goes Greedo, and I just take initiative. Okay, so we did draw resupply. So here is something pretty interesting that comes up. So Um, there, here's where sequencing matters so much. So if I start with resupply, right, that gives him the opportunity to play super laser tech, ambush it, and ramp himself. You want to take away as many possible options for your, for your opponent to ramp as you can. Uh, Boba Fett, this is especially true because you really don't want him coming out on turn 3. So I just make this trade immediately. He has resupply. We have our own resupply here. Uh, so both leaders are coming out next turn. We're somewhat at parity. Uh, Same number of cards in hand, same life, etc., etc. So that was a good draw for us, but the Dooku's not really exactly what we want. The Vader, though, was especially what we wanted here. I think about resourcing the Traitorous, but I realized that I probably need it this turn to take his Boba Fett that he's probably going to play here for 3. It just guards from more things because otherwise our turn's pretty awkward. Um, we have takedown for like a Bosk or something if he plays it. We could also just go to space with the 3-drop. So just a couple different plays. Now, next turn can be somewhat awkward for us. So this is kind of interesting, and I'm glad that we have it on camera or on video because I think what he did was pass. Um, yeah, so what he did there was just pass because he has an awkward hand as well, where it's very reactive. He might have Traitors himself. He might have like Bosk in hand, maybe a Syndicate Lackey if he plays it. It's probably just a very reactive hand, maybe Waylay. Um, and our hand is basically the same. It's also very reactive. It's got a Vader we can't play. It's got a takedown. It's got a Traitorous. And the 3-drop Starship is fine, but if we play it there and it gets Traitorous, it's just pretty bad for us because we really don't have any way to deal with that right now. And bringing on our leader means that he just brings out his leader, and his leader is much better than ours in like a straight up knife fight. So I take the chance to just take the initiative right away. We both skip our turn, and I'm actually somewhat okay with that. So resupply here goes down into our resource zone. If we played Avenger, we might have actually just played the resupply there to go up to 7 resources, but we don't. So I think I actually just pass here as well because I don't want to tap down the 4 resources because our 4 resource plays are somewhat awkward. Um, I think I pass, but maybe I play the short trooper. It's just we both just have very awkward hands. Yeah, so I pass and he goes to space. Okay, so now we can actually start playing the game. So I could Traitorous that. I could just play the short trooper and then try to take down something. Uh, yeah, so we have options. We ended up going with the Traitorous play. He brings out Boba Fett, fine. I'll bring out Krennic. If he wants to trade Boba Fett into Krennic with a surprise strike, I'm not too upset by that because then we can just play takedown on it or just Vader it. But he just decides to go to base. I'm totally fine with that. We can heal most of that damage back. I could also take initiative here. Yeah, which is what I do. Like I don't think the 2 damage is really worth it here, just to lose, the initiative. Uh, and then that's turn. So we got options now. So this is actually really unfortunate that. So this is actually a perfect opportunity to play Power of the Dark Side, where it's at max potential, like for a blowout. But naturally, I don't have it, and we have to go for the Vader into Death Trooper play, which would also be very strong. But I think I might actually, let's see what we get here. I think I only get 7 cards, but I realize, yeah, so there's 8, 9, 10. All right, so here's our options. So uh, there's Yularen, which we can't get. There's the 3-drop Starship we can't get. So we can get a TIE Fighter or a Royal Guard. So I think with that knowledge that the Royal Guard is the best option here. You know, Death Trooper would have been the best, obviously, because then we can just kill his Vader or his leader. But unfortunately, we have to leave his leader on board with two health left. So we do have options, but we got to go with the Sentinel. So the guard is a 3/4 Sentinel in this spot because Krennic does have the official trait. But at the same time, this kind of leaves us. No. Let's see. OB is not so bad here because it's only for 6. I don't care about that. He can only kill one thing with OB. So the guard also protects us against his own Vader. That's another very important thing with Vader is that if you can pull out a Sentinel with it, it also protects himself from the opposing Vaders. So I think I'm just counting to see how many Death Troopers I've seen. It's none. So mathematically, that was pretty unfortunate for us. Pretty bad break for us. But we're ahead on board. His Boba Fett's almost dead. Our leader doesn't have any damage on it. Okay, so yeah, so there's his own Vader, totally fine. He's just gonna ambush the Sentinel first, and then see what he gets. So the most obnoxious thing that he could get here is probably Boba Fett Disintegrator. I don't care that much about the Cell Block Guard. So we can make some attacks. We can take initiative to try to just take out his board, early. I think I just take initiative here, but I don't know if that's the best play ultimately. It's kind of making our leader really awkward, but I'm just trying to draw into OB or a Depth Trooper, and that's 6 cards in our deck that would really just basically end the game. So he's going to freeze something here. He picks Vader first, but with 4 damage on Vader, I think we talk about it for a second, and ultimately we agree that Krennic is the best. Yeah, because Vader's dying first attack regardless. I mean, it's very unlikely that I attack his base with the Vader there. But the Cell Block Guard is just kind of annoying because we can't really ambush Shannon Shore Trooper to kill it because that just doesn't really help us. So we have to kind of take down here on the Boba Fett. And we actually don't care that much now if he wants to trade Cell Block Guard into Vader because then we can display Power of the Dark Side to destroy his Vader. He could also go face with Subblock Guard, put us to 11, which makes us attack it, which then lets us play Takedown, actually, but he does make the trade. I don't know if that's not necessarily the best play for him, because I had to attack into Subblock Guard regardless, but now we can just play Power of the Dark Side to take out his Vader, which he has another. So one Vader isn't that scary. Two Vaders is extremely scary because I don't have two Vaders. And now, if he has Boba Fett Disintegrator, yeah, so that's like really bad for us now, because anytime our Krennic wants to do anything, that Boba Fett can just take him right out for free. So we have to take the initiative here. Our traders on his ship is awkward at this point, but at the same time, it is saving us a ton of damage. So we do have to keep resourcing because we have to start playing multiple cards per turn. So we're just going to play Vader. This Vader is going to be able to take out his Vader. If we find a Death Trooper, we could actually put 2 damage on Vader, putting him to 4, which means Krennic can take him out. Yeah, so there's the Death Trooper. That's really our only option there, right? Yeah, that or TIE Fighter. So the Death Trooper is going to come in. It's going to put Vader on 4 damage. I know it says it has 3 right now, but it actually just has 2. The only thing that we get like really punished by here is OB. So I'm kind of doing math here, thinking if I take out Vader, that means that the OB would be for 5 off of his Boba Fett, but my Vader would have 5 damage on it from his Vader, so he could kill Krennic, Vader, and Death Trooper no matter who I kill here. So I decide with that knowledge that I think killing his Boba Fett is best, because the only card that really punishes us for that is OB. Nothing else is really that scary. But we do take out the Vader just because it's the more power threat. Yeah, so he does have the OB. He can kill everything just regardless, because Krennic has two health left, Vader has 2 health left, and the Death Trooper has 1 health. So we just take 5 damage, and we have to take initiative. So this is not great for us, obviously, but he waylays his guy back, totally fine. And now this is where something like Avenger would be incredible, because we can just play the Avenger here, and that would basically seal the game, instead of the Star Destroyer, which is incredibly awkward. It just doesn't do anything. We basically just have to play like Death Trooper or Shore Trooper, or even Takedown on his Boba Fett. We're just in a super awkward spot, whereas, again, it feels like the Avenger, the game would just be over, because it'll be able to take out Boba Fett, and then for every turn after that, it just takes something out. So I do take the takedown back. Like, it just didn't feel good to take down a Boba Fett that only had 3 left. We just played Shore Trooper, and then played the Star Destroyer, just to establish some sort of threat in play. I give it Sentinel just in case he wants to get, you know, cheeky with fire spray. Yep, knew he had that. There's not really much else we can do here, so we just take the initiative, which lets him kill that with Bosk, and now it's like we're way behind if we don't draw like an OB, and even if we do, we're still pretty far behind. So there is the OB. So I have, what's that, 3, 6, 9, 10 resources. So we can, so it's for 7 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then take the shield. I think he might, let's see. Yeah, so just putting me to 19. So now he's threatening lethal with a surprise strike. So I don't want to take this guy out, so we just do that. But then he has the fire spray, and that kind of ends the game, I think. To take down the ship. Yeah, and there's a surprise strike for 8. So I don't think there's anything that we could have done there to win that game. We just got a little bit unlucky with our Vader, and he had 2 of his own Vaders to kind of trump our 1. And it was just the fact that we were playing the Star Destroyer and Dooku instead of like, you know, like Avenger and something else that would have been good with ECL rather than Dooku. So I want to go back to the deck list now. So after seeing some games, you can kind of see where some changes are needed. The shuttle was like awkward. It never did anything. The power level just is too low for this kind of deck. This is a very high powered deck with very good card quality and a really good top end. So the shuttle is good in some situations, but you know, this is also just one matchup. I mean, maybe it's good against other matchups. I don't know. But a 2-cost 1/1 that like has a really awkward ability, it needs to be something else. Like I said, maybe TIE Fighter is the play, maybe TIE Advanced with a certain like Imperial count. I don't know. There's definitely options that we need to explore in that spot. I feel like the core of the deck with like the Inferno 4, Shore Trooper, Death Trooper, Power of the Dark Side, Royal Guard, Super Laser Tech. I think that the 3-drop Starship's good. Resupply is obviously a core card in the deck. Cell Block Guard I think needs to stay because of Vader. Takedown's obviously not going anywhere. OB not going anywhere. 1 Traitorous is fine. I definitely wouldn't play more in this deck. Maybe 1 more in the sideboard, but one main feels fine. And then Vader, like 3 Vaders. That's the core of the deck. So the cards that you really have to work with are like Dooku, Star Destroyer. Callus is probably good enough to stay for now. And like the shuttle can be altered with, so there's 8 cards. And then maybe Laren. I do like him because gaining some life with a 25 health base is pretty helpful. You can kind of stretch that 25 health to like 27, 28, which makes a big difference in a game. So yeah, so I think that this deck is very powerful. With a couple changes, you can definitely make it even more powerful. But I'm going to be continuing to test this into other matchups and see how it does. So hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will be back with the next video hopefully in a few days. Thanks for tuning in.